Finance.
Hey, welcome to the Financial Independence Podcast, the podcast where I get inside the brains of some of the best and brightest in the personal finance space to find out how they achieved financial independence. Before I introduce my guest today, I just want to thank everyone who left a iTunes review. There's been a lot that have popped up over the last month or so, and I really appreciate the feedback. So thanks for doing that. And I'm also excited to announce that we're going to be releasing 2 episodes of the Financial Independence Podcast per month for the rest of the year. So look out for some new episodes coming your way soon. On today's show, I'm excited to introduce Joshua Dorkin from BiggerPockets.com. Joshua is the CEO and founder of BiggerPockets, and if you're a real estate investor, you know what BiggerPockets is. But if you're not, it's the go-to place on the internet for anything real estate investing related. They have a podcast that's top in iTunes. They have a blog. They've got calculators. They've got their own publishing house so that they release all these great books for real estate investing. They have just a ton of stuff going on over there. It's an incredible community with a very active forum, and it is pretty much the go-to place for real estate online. So I'm excited to get Joshua on the show, not really to talk about real estate investing, but to talk about how you build a business like he's built. Entrepreneurship is something that a lot of people in the audience are wanting to pursue, and it seems like Joshua did it right. He built up something incredible slowly over time, and now it is what it is today, which is an impressive business. I know he has lots of employees, and I know he's helping hundreds of thousands of people with real estate investing in a non-sleazy way. So it's an incredible thing that he's done, and I'm excited to ask him how he did it. So without further delay, Joshua, thanks a lot for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Brandon.
Yeah, so I'm excited to talk to you about a few things. Definitely the real estate, obviously, and also entrepreneurship, because what you've done with BiggerPockets is just incredible. So I can't wait to hear about that story. But before we dive in, I got to give a shout out to Mrs. 1500 from 1500days.com. She's the one that put this together. Every time I see her, she's like, you gotta interview Josh from BiggerPockets. And I'm sure she's been hounding you as well, to get on this show. So yeah, thanks to Mrs. 1500. And, thanks for you, thanks for taking the time, because I know you're a busy man. So,
it's a pleasure. It'll be interesting doing a show with somebody named Brandon, whose balls I'm not busting. So,
I know. Well, yeah, you can, that's fine. But, Brandon Turner. Yeah. How did you two get linked up anyway? That's a question that I'm sure a lot of people in the BiggerPockets listening, who are listening would want to know.
Sure. Well, I'm sure we'll get into it a little later, but I had run BiggerPockets for, I think it was 7 or 8 years as kind of the soloist, and again, I'm sure you'll ask about that afterwards. And the time came to bring somebody on board. And Brandon was he was a longtime BiggerPockets super fan. He had found the site when he was looking to get going in real estate investing. He started to build a portfolio as a result of being a part of the community, and he was one of our blog writers. And when the time came to actually hire somebody to be my community manager, my first non-technical hire, he and I had become friends, and it just, it was one of these like, hey, I think it's time to hire, trying to find somebody. Is that something, would you possibly be interested? And, we literally dated for like 3 months and like kind of threw it around, spent hours and hours kind of talking about it. And it just seemed like a good fit. We liked each other. And, so I ended up hiring him, and the podcast, when we decided to do the podcast, it just made sense. I mean, we were good together. We have a pretty good friendly banter, and we were both excited about the idea of putting together a show. And so we just said, what the hell, let's just do it.
That's awesome. Yeah. You guys, whenever I listen to the BiggerPockets podcast, it always makes me want to have a co-host, cause I'm always here. I'm always here on my own, and you guys are, busting each other's balls and having a good time. And, it definitely shows that you're friends probably before co-hosts, definitely.
Oh, for sure.
So we skipped way ahead there, but I just was, curious. But, for people in my audience that may not, know your story, how did this all come about? How did BiggerPockets come about, and what's, like your personal background a bit?
Well, when I was born, my mom liked to, my parents were entrepreneurs. I grew up in a household around entrepreneurship. I mean, they didn't preach it, but I think we just lived it, right? So being the when you went on vacation and your parents are on the well, they weren't on the phone because we didn't have cell phones, but they were stressing about that stuff, or going to a landline and actually like calling into work to check in and things like that. You start to kind of figure it out. We'd go and visit their business and get to kind of experience what that was like. And I liked it. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool. It was fun to watch my mom in action. She had a retail store. So watching her just, selling and interacting with people was always exciting. So I kind of got into the whole idea of business. Being a New Yorker, that's kind of the world. Everybody and everybody who you're around is involved in business in some way, shape, or form. And so it kind of becomes part of your DNA. As my story goes, went to college. In college, I tried a few things, got involved in student government, got involved in a car rental business at the student government. So started to kind of experience running a business myself. After school, I became a stock trader. Decided I had done a bunch of internships in high school. I worked at a toy factory. I did all sorts of stuff, just trying to kind of learn the world, I guess. So I was a trader in Boston. It wasn't really for me. I ended up moving back to New York, got into the entertainment business, which brought me out to LA. Was involved in the business in LA and realized, again, that business wasn't for me. Rewind a little bit, in college, I'd started building websites for fun. That was the beginning of the visual internet in 94. And so I built a website called Splee. It was like this, GU Web, I think was the other name for it. It was like the biggest site on the internet for colleges. So, you could find any university on the planet. And then I was like, hey, let's take this and make it into like a portal, because Yahoo was hot at the time and Yahoo had built this portal. And I'm like, all right, let's build a portal for college kids. And it didn't really work too well. But anyway, so I had experience way back then in building websites. Fast forward, I'm in LA, bouncing around. I end up a teacher. I end up getting real estate license. Hating that. The teaching thing, I wasn't a huge fan of. But while I was teaching, my brother suggested, hey, why don't you go out and buy some property? He had just bought a bunch of buildings and knew that I had some cash sitting around and decided, hey, why not? Seems like a good place to park some cash. I'm a smart guy. Let me give this a go. So I bought some property, and
so this is early 2000s probably.
Man, this 04 maybe 03,
okay.
Give or take ish. Bought some property, and pretty quickly found that I probably should have done more homework before I bought those properties. I just figured, hey, I'm a college graduate. I can do the math. That wasn't hard. But I didn't think about the people side of it. I didn't think of the parts that you probably need to actually educate yourself about. And so, I found myself in situations where, I had property managers who I hadn't really vetted appropriately because I didn't know how to. We were bringing in tenants that weren't great. We were doing work on the buildings that maybe we should have done differently. And little by little, it all started to catch up with me. And I started to find myself in trouble and realize, wow, well, I need help. What do I do? So I looked at the landscape and said, oh, okay, well, what's out there? And there were a couple websites that existed to help real estate investors, but they were all those, and anything else that I found online or off were kind of tied into that get rich quick crowd, the late night TV, the gurus, these guys who, hey, you get a free course, but your free course is really an upsell for like, a $900, weekend boot camp, which is an upsell for a $5,000 weekend boot camp, which is an upsell for $25,000, $50,000, $75,000 private training with so-and-so. And, I see it and I'm like, come on, this is this is ridiculous. Thank God, I come from New York. I'm very proud of these things. And, we learn how to smell the bowl.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going to get myself caught up in any of this drama. I can't find anybody or any platform or anything that's really independent from that. And so I said, you know what? All right. I've got a background in building websites. Let me just do this. Let me take this space and create a community and put together a bunch of resources that are going to help me. In the beginning, it was, fairly self-centered, I guess. But very quickly realized that, okay, as people started to come and actually help me out, it's like, oh, this is actually a really good idea for something to help other people out. And that's when, I decided, oh, I'm not going to shut this down. I'm going to keep going and I'm going to build it up and help folks. And obviously over the years, that was 11 plus years ago. Over the years, Bigger Pockets has, transformed to become this unbelievable site that's helped, tens of millions of people now.
That's crazy. Yeah. What are you guys up to now? You guys have so many, like I'm a member and I get all your emails and things and it's great. And it's just amazing just how much good information there is in so many different formats. So it's impressive to see it as it is now, but it's fun to try to picture it as it was back when you started, which was 2005. Is that right?
I think it was August 04.
August 04. Okay. So how did it start? Was it just a blog at first, or was it just a forum, or how did it? What was the first incarnation of it?
I don't know if blogs borderline existed then. I'm pretty sure that was when Will Wheaton was like, I'm going to create the first blog. I think it was Will Wheaton. I'll give him credit even if he wasn't the guy, because he was the cool blogger back in the day.
Right.
But it started as I just started building web pages with resources that were helpful to me. So I was looking for, hey, how do I find deals maybe? So I started to put together foreclosure list, banks that offered foreclosures. And then I'd create another page on this topic, another page on that topic. And then I, went out and found some software to let me build a community, a forum. I'd never run a forum. I'd spent a little bit of time in forums, but not a ton. And I said, all right, let me figure this out. And so, it was a training ground. It was, let's learn how to do this. How do I learn how to run a forum? How do I learn how to build these things? What's it like? And so, everything over the years has been just experimentation. Let's try it. Let's, study other people who are doing things well in other, verticals and figure out how I could do the same or do better. So it started as the forum and just a bunch of resources. I believe a year or two later, ended up launching the blog. Didn't know what the hell I was doing, nor did anyone else. Some of the crap that I put out back then was just atrocious, really terrible. But I had no idea.
Right.
There was no Google then. There was no. There weren't communities. There were some communities, Web Pro World, Webmaster World, that existed for building websites, but I think everybody was trying to figure it out. And so little by little, we just played, experimented, launch a blog. Cool. MySpace was hot and I was like, oh, this is cool. Yeah, I should build a social network. That's a great idea. So I went and paid a outsource firm, to help me do that. And they had a team in India, seemed like a good idea. And, many, many months later and lots of money later, I got back a whole chunk of code that I had to throw in the trash, completely useless. Everything I had made in that, I think it was a 3-year period or something, was gone. I had to decide, that was one of the earliest, hey, do I get off the pot? And so decided not to, and said, how do I go forward, continuing to build this platform out, and just kind of stuck it out. And there were a lot of lows and a lot of not so highs and and struggles. Struggles. But really, it was the path. And to make a very long story short, was cool, great idea, hobby site. Josh starts playing and building this site that's going to help him with his business. Realizes that it may be may be valuable to other people. So gets, takes it a little more seriously, but still kind of a hobby site. decides to hire a developer after this whole thing fell apart with the social network to help me start to build it little by little. So now I've got this lifestyle business. It's starting to make me a little bit of money, but I'm doing everything. Developer is doing the code, and I'm doing the marketing, the PR, the content, the community management, you name it. I was doing it. And by the way, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just figuring it out, right?
Right.
And then 8 years later, I was burnt out. I was 7-8 years later. I had, I was working 80 to 100 hours a week, every single week. I couldn't escape my keyboard. I whenever I traveled, whenever I did whatever I did, I couldn't go 5 minutes. It was like crack. I mean, I've never been addicted to crack, but I kind of imagine it might be the same thing. And, it was one of those turning points. I said to my wife, I think I'm done. I can't do this anymore. This just isn't working.
So were you working another job alongside of this at this point, or did you go full time with Bigger Pockets at that?
So I went full time. Yeah, good question. I was doing the teaching thing. I did that for 4 years, and about 2 years into the teaching thing was when I launched Bigger Pockets. So the first 2 years I was doing it nights and weekends.
Sure.
And then I quit my job, and it was my wife had a good job. She was doing well, and so she was mostly supporting us. I was making a little bit of money with it. It was we lived frugally, cheaply for the most part. And so we were able to kind of make it, but eventually said, oh, you know what, let's give this a go. Let's try it. It kind of coincided when we got married and moved out to Denver from LA. So, had this moment and said, what do we do? And I decided I was going to hire somebody to help me solve that question. And so hired a consultant. And we really worked through the business and ripped it apart and, spit out, a much slimmer version of what we had created. And, still we're at a point where, you can't just continue to run this business yourself, go get a loan from the bank, or, it looks like if you take a crap salary, you can pay somebody else. And so that's what I did. And I hired, that was Brandon, hired Brandon. So now I had 3 people, on the team. And that was really the beginning of the transformation from lifestyle business to a proper company. And fast forward now 3.25 years, and we're a couple of days from hiring our 21st person at the company.
Wow,
and
congratulations.
Yeah, it's going like gangbusters. It was there was a lot of fake it till you make it. In those early years, people were like, oh, wow, how big's the team? And I'm like, I would always speak in we's, but the we was me and myself because I was doing the job of 17 people.
Yeah.
It's been a journey for sure.
It's very inspiring because you look at Bigger Pockets now and it looks like this amazing thing that some grand mastermind at the top had this amazing vision to create this incredible thing. Yeah. Josh is doing evil fingers like a mastermind on video. But it's great that it's just, someone starting out who's just scratching their own itch. I think I've heard you say before in the past, which is a great way to start a business when you want something and it's not there, find it. That's exactly why I created Mad Fientist. Is I wanted some more like deep math posts and optimizations, and I didn't find it, so I figured I'd do it myself. But then just to experiment and keep going, and learning from your mistakes and building on your successes. That's great. A couple questions that came up when you were chatting about how you got to where you are today. Was there a big jump in productivity when you left your full-time job, or was having all that extra free time, actually what Parkinson's law, the time you give something, that's how much it takes to actually fill. So do you think that made a big difference in the growth, or was it the time that you started hiring out that really made the difference?
It was the hiring out. What I've learned an incredible amount in the many years of this journey. The biggest thing that I took away from the consultant was, you are so stuck in the business and you're not working on the business. And it's trite for people who get it, but a lot of people don't actually get it. In fact, I was watching like a Shark Tank recap last night, and I saw these guys who have built this business doing 10 million in sales, and it's the two of them, and they're slaving away 20-hour days. And I'm like, I want to shake them and say, hey, your mentor needs to be telling you to stop this.
Right.
This is crazy. I experienced it. I wish somebody shook me and told me, there's another way, there's a better way. But I used that time to just kind of dick around on the site there. I mean, I was just, it was good. I'm not going to take away the value of that time, because I think had I not spent that time, BiggerPockets, the enthusiasm, the core, the strength of the community itself, would not be where it is today. And so that time was definitely time well spent. And so it's tough, because had I gone immediately and started to try to hire and build a business around this platform, a proper business, I don't really know if it would have succeeded. I think I probably had to go through that phase in order to get to the point where I can hire people. And I think I probably had to do it maybe in not 7, 8 years, maybe it was 5, but I had to cross certain thresholds in order to make that change. Had I not, I think I would have been yet another one of the communities that launched and died, because over the years I've seen dozens and dozens of dozens in our vertical alone.
Right. Yeah, no, that's crazy. So now you start hiring some people and things really start taking off. So did you pretty much rewrite the whole site from scratch at that point with the new developer, or did you keep on some stuff and just slowly start weeding things out?
I mean, we'd been building stuff from scratch I probably stupidly so. A lot of people ask me about, if I wrote a book, about myself, what the title would be. It's one of the interview questions that we ask, and mine always has something to do with, boy, you're stupid. Because we wrote code that we didn't need to write. We did things that we didn't need to do. We built stuff that we probably could have, used open source software or done other pathways, but we built it. We built BiggerPockets from zero. So, I used open source forums at first, and then we wrote our own forums afterwards. We wrote our own blog platform. We wrote our own, you name it, we've written it. So,
I was surprised by that actually when we first met in FinCon a couple years ago. I forget how we started talking about it. We started talking about Ruby on Rails because that's what I program in. And you're like, yeah, that's BiggerPockets is all Ruby on Rails. And I was like, whoa, no way. You created everything from scratch. That's amazing. So that's,
or stupid,
or stupid. Yeah. But, it looks like it's paying off now because, you definitely get a lot of interesting functionality that would be hard to get with just WordPress alone, I think. So,
exactly.
Specifically the email notifications, that's been great. Like, I'm not a real estate investor, but I want to keep my, eyes open in Pittsburgh because that's my hometown. And, maybe we'll go back there one day, and it seems to be like a good place for buy and hold investing and things like that. So I just get all these emails from BiggerPockets. So anytime Pittsburgh is mentioned in any of the forums or anything, I get an email, which is awesome. It's just, really cool. So that was a good feature to implement.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's, totally custom. By the way, I don't know that they'd be kind to you in Pittsburgh if you were rocking the kilt. So, just watch yourself.
Yeah, I know. Oh, the kilt's so good, man. Have you ever wore one?
I have not, but I could imagine some freedom down there.
Oh, you don't even realize how free it is. So, and you have to be a true Scotsman, which means no boxers or underwear or anything. It's you got to
nice.
be. Yeah, which I got yelled at my wedding because my wife was like, "This is your wedding. This is not appropriate." And I was getting tossed in the air by all my groomsmen and things. It was not a good situation.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't see the video.
Yeah. Anyway, we're getting back on topic. So, if people in my audience aren't too familiar with BiggerPockets, can you just talk a little bit about what you offer right now? Because you guys are doing tons of stuff. You got the podcast, the blog. You got. You're your own publishing house now, pretty much, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah. So, I'll really, really quickly bring you through the offering of what we are. So, started with the forum, and those resources still exist today. So the community, the forum really is the heart of Bigger Pockets. We do, 2,000-3,000 new posts a day. It's insane. I mean, the engagement that's happening and the enthusiasm just continues to grow. And it's, we've got almost 500,000 members, and it's just people coming in and looking for that financial freedom. It's folks who, for anybody from somebody who's like, hey, I heard about real estate. It'd be a great way to make some money, to somebody who's like, yeah, who found out about it as, real estate might be a path to financial freedom, to the guy who he's been in the game for 15 years, has a couple thousand units, and uses our platform to network and find partners and find opportunities. I mean, Brandon Turner is a perfect example of like a Bigger Pocket success story. The guy, when he started working for me, didn't need a job because he had built up wealth using real estate on his own. And, now he works for us because he loves it and is a huge part of our world. But, we've got, I don't even know how many Bigger Pockets millionaires, people who've literally just started with nothing, found Bigger Pockets, used Bigger Pockets as a means to learn, to find partners, to find opportunities, and have built up their wealth to be a pretty sexy number. So there's that community. There's a social network. We've got a multi-author blog. We call it a web magazine, right? We've got 20, 30, 40, depends on the week, folks contributing content in the vertical in real estate investing. And the idea is really, we want to put out the best information. We want to teach people we want to democratize the real estate information space. So, take people who are getting their hands dirty and have them help share what they know, what they're experiencing with everybody else. So there's the blog. I mean, we've got a file platform where people can file share, forms and things like that. We've got a free course that we put together, a video course. We wrote an Ultimate Beginner's Guide, which is it's the video course is based upon it, but it's a free book basically. The whole premise is we want to open up the information space. I don't think somebody should have to pay $50,000 from some salesman, from some guru to learn real estate investing. I think people should be able to get any bit of information they ever want to learn for free from Bigger Pockets. And we're never going to charge for that. Now, we do make money, so we have to make money. Otherwise,
right,
we'd collapse. So we build tools, and the site's got a marketplace. So if you've got deals that you want to promote, you can pitch those in the marketplace. You have to be a paid member to do that. We built things like a calculator suite. Whether you're looking to flip a house or buy and hold a house or do something called wholesaling, you could run the numbers through any of our calculators, put together these really amazing reports, and then take it to your lender and say, hey, here's a deal that I found that looks great. Here's a professional report on the numbers. We're looking for a loan. It's also great for partners. So, in order to be able to do some of the things with the calculator, you need to have a paid membership. But information, knowledge, learning is totally free on Bigger Pockets. Tools, some are free, some we charge for. That's kind of the model there. Outside of that, I know I'm talking away here.
No,
we got the podcast. I think we just put out show 170 today, I believe it was. So we put out a show a week. And the podcast is all about interviewing folks who, whether they're just getting started, a guy who just bought his first rental property, who can walk our listeners through what that experience was like, all the way to folks, like I said, who we just had a guy this week. He done like 25 flips and owns, I think, 1,400 units over the course of something like 7 years. And how did he do that? So, we break it down, and we'll do shows from newbie shows to, much more advanced shows. but we want to be the podcast that's out there, just trying to teach people how to build wealth, how to build a real estate portfolio, how to use real estate as a means for passive income, to get them to retirement, things like that. And, at the end of the day, our philosophy is there's no one path. There's no one correct way to do things in real estate. So let's create this business, this platform that helps people find their way and figure out what's best for them. Because what's best for you, Brandon, is not going to be the same thing that's best for me. That's not going to be what's even somebody financially in the exact same position as you, who, maybe somebody's 65, maybe somebody's 20. They're going to have different ways of going about things. And so, we use the community to help people learn what that is and find their way.
Yeah, it's an amazing community you've built as well. How long do you think it took to really get to a self-sustaining community? Because it's just amazing what it is today, and it's hard to imagine what it was early on. But how long did it take?
That's a tough question. I think there were lots of inflection points, tipping points along the way. I think it was like year 3 or 4 where I didn't have to necessarily post every day in order for new threads to be posted. Right. By year 6, I had 5. We had great moderators who were helping to encourage more activity and initiate. So I think there were a lot of points. I couldn't point to one point now. I wish I took notes along the way.
That's good to know. Like 3 or 4 years, there's a lot of work on your part to get something going. So I think that answers the question well enough. It's that's a lot of hard work and sweat and tears probably to get to that stage. Which is really impressive. So yeah, it sounds like figure out something that you want to know or want to be in the world. Work really hard for a while. Try stuff, fail, learn from it, keep going. And as long as you're patient and have faith and still enjoy what you're doing, it sounds like you can get to this stage. Is there anything that you would have changed along the way, or would have done better? Or do you think everything played a part into the success of Bigger Pockets?
I think to one of your points, have faith and work hard. I had folks who told me along the way, many, many people, friends and non-friends, friends and foes, and even folks who were, I sat down with some pretty knowledgeable VCs, and a lot of people were like, "What are you doing? This is not going to go anywhere. Why are you continuing at this? You're doing okay, but it's never going to be anything like it is actually today, right?" And I think there was somewhat of I had a belief. I knew that Bigger Pockets was transforming lives. I knew that it could continue to do that. But it wasn't a great business for a lot of years, and I'll even say today, it's not a great business because we don't necessarily put business first. We put user first. So, if we wanted to just monetize the crap out of our users, we could do that. There's no doubt about it. And I'm pretty sure we wouldn't lose too much, but for us, we want to put our users first and foremost. We want to help them. We want to educate them. We want to make it affordable. We want to make it so people don't have to. Like I said, I started this business, the website, because I was sickened by the tactics that were being used by people to quote unquote educate people in the real estate investing world. And we have countless people today still who come on our site who are like, yeah, I just, spent $50,000 on XYZ and I've got nothing to show for it. And so, I hopefully I can get going, but I'm frustrated. Granted, I'm not saying that doesn't work for everybody, because certainly it does work for some people, but I think the vast majority of people, even who come to our platform, who try and say, "Yeah, I'm going to be a real estate investor," they quit, right? And so we're not a guarantee of success either by any means. But I think if you are methodical, like you had said before, and tactical, and you stick it out, and intelligent about how you go about doing it, your odds of success are much higher. Right. And so I probably could have quit along the way. Maybe I should have quit along the way, but I'm sure glad I didn't. And I know there's millions of people who probably would say the same thing.
Oh, absolutely. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's really inspiring, and yeah, it's an incredible community. And I'll obviously link to all the great things that you talked about in the show notes, and also link to a couple of the books that you guys are putting out, which is another avenue that you're exploring.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
Which is awesome. Yeah, the book on tax strategies for the savvy real estate investor. That's the one that appealed to me, because I know there's a lot of really cool tax avoidance stuff you can do with real estate. So
absolutely.
So I'll link to all that in the show notes as well. But I usually ask all my guests, what's one piece of advice that you would have for somebody who wants to pursue financial independence or early retirement? And it could be entrepreneurial, it could be real estate related, or it could be just a personal piece of advice.
From a self-interested perspective, I do believe, I absolutely believe that real estate is an incredible path to building wealth, to building financial independence. If you have not yet explored it, and we look at money through a funnel, and we see real estate typically fairly close to the end of the funnel. As a kid, you learn about banking, then you learn about stocks and bonds and yada, 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 mutual funds. And, most people never get to the point where they actually learn about real estate. And so, I strongly encourage everybody listening to consider real estate. I think it's an incredible way to build wealth. That the Ultimate Beginner's Guide that we wrote, which you'll link to, it's biggerpockets.com/UBG. Is, again, it's a free book that'll literally just tell you, you don't even have to give us an email. You just go to that website and you can read the book. It's 8 chapters. It'll walk you through how real estate works. You'll at least know the basics of it. I encourage everybody to learn that and see if it's something that you're potentially interested in. There's other ways to do it. There's communities like Pat Flynn's where, you can build business on web businesses and things like that. There's lots of ways to go and build financial independence. Real estate is a pretty good one. So I just encourage everyone to check it out. Otherwise, find what you love. If you hate it, try something else. Don't stick with things that suck, because, you'll be miserable. And, financial independence talks about independence. And if you're just getting financially independent, but you're personally in a miserable, and why the hell are you doing it? So, build a life that you love, build a life that makes sense for you and your family, and whatever path that you take to get there, just keep that front and center. I think people lose the happiness part of life, and they forget about why we're here and what we're trying to do. And that's to just kind of live cool lives and doing crappy jobs that you hate, or, doing financial activities that make you financially independent, but which you're miserable in. It's not the way to do it.
Absolutely. That's fantastic advice. Josh, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. And
all right, Brandon.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. Take care.
You got it.
Bye.
Finance